everybody. This is Charles Fowler with another exciting chapter of Library of Alexandria. And the cool thing about this one is actually going to be, what is God? So when it comes to God, God is actually you, it's me, it's the trees, it's the plants, it's the planets, it's the grass, it's the cars, the people, everything that's actually in existence and non-existence. You know what I mean? All coming together. It's actually a certain energy. You know what I mean? It's actually a certain, I guess, several energies, about 16 different energies that come together and work as one. So one cool thing I wanted to actually start off was actually telling my journey and how I actually discovered who God was. So when it actually comes to it, actually, so I started off when I was a child. I actually was Christian. You know what I mean? I remember I wanted to be a pastor and really like being passionate because I always knew as a kid like this is what I was supposed to do, to just tell people the truth. You know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, being a Christian, I was learning all these things. So then as I went through my journeys and actually started to learn, I was like, okay, so if I'm actually going to be preaching on the Bible, let me learn a little bit about the Bible. So when I actually started learning about the Bible actually, when it was first created, it was written actually in Hebrew and actually in Greek. And you couldn't actually, way back in the day, you couldn't read the Bible unless you were actually a scholar and you could, read Hebrew or Greek. So then there was actually someone who was, it was Martin Luther, and he was the first one to actually put it in so that everybody else can read it. But it's a translation. So, you can actually lose information and all that through translation. So I was like, oh, well, that's not good. And then after the Martin Luther actually got translated again to the King James Version. And then it actually keeps on getting, translated, throughout the time. So then I kind of threw up a flag. I was like, oh, okay, that's like the telephone game, over time. You know what I mean? Things will get changed up just based upon people's views, maybe how they feel about certain things or whatever. So then I did a little bit more research into it, and then I learned that going back in those times, that back in the Roman times, the Roman emperor Constantine, actually, that picture that we see of Jesus that everybody sees is actually Constantine's nephew. And I was like, oh, okay. So, not only did they, change up the figure, they changed up pretty much everything. So I was like, I don't know. I want to actually start, like, seeking the truth. Because that's what I am. I want to see what the truth is to all this situation. So then I was like, okay. So then I got rid of that, inward mind to where saying, like, this is the only way. You know what I mean? And I start opening my eyes to everything, and I started to just observe and see everything. So then I actually stumbled on Scientology, which was pretty cool. I actually learned about personalities and stuff like that. And then I stumbled on being a Buddhist, you know what I mean? Started studying on, actually keep on going back all the way to Orishas, you know what I mean? I just started studying all these religions, and I was like, wow. And I took up so much information and learned so much from them. And then, honestly, when I really started to think about it, I was like, so what was the actual first religion after I started studying? Because I just kept going back, all these ancient religions, ancient Egypt religions, ancient the Indus Valley, you know what I mean? All these super ancient ones and religions, and then I was like, so what was the very first religion? So when I actually went down to it and did a lot of research, it actually comes out that meditation was the first religion, because that was the first thing, as a human being, we decided to somehow meditate, you know what I mean? And then we started to go inward and see. So I remember, boy, the first time I had did a meditation, I had got one of the craziest little affirmations it could ever. It basically was saying that I was Jesus in one of my last lives, and that this is my reincarnation for that. And I was like, I popped out of that meditation. Was like, what? Oh, hell nah. And I was like, you know what? After everything I learned with all I guess the lies, I guess you can say. I hate to say it, but the lies that all that stuff that everybody has taught me. As soon as I went inside, I heard that. So I was like, let's go ahead, let's go try it out. So I started actually changing a lot of the ways, and I just basically was doing meditations, and it was like, go have a plant-based diet. You know what I mean? Go vegan. You know what I mean? In a way. 80%, plant-based, diet basically, and sometimes you can have those, vegetarian options. But really based upon, because that's one of the reasons where I had stopped, because I was doing a meditation. It's really about the blood sacrifice. So when you're killing all those things, all those vibrations and energies, you're ending them with that death. So all that vibrations and all that anger and all that is actually in that. And that could happen with anything, plants, You know what I mean? Because it's all energy. You know what I mean? So when they're done that way, what's going to happen is that energy is going to be part of your body, and you are what you eat. So now these are your vibrations. So that's going to mess with a lot of your manifestations and all that. So that's why a lot of times some people say, oh, go in, health is wealth. You know what I mean? Because it's actually going to change your vibrations. It's going to change the way you look. It's going to change, everything when you start actually, focusing on health. So then, you know what I mean, once I started learning all these new things about, health and, going through, listening, I just remember I was like, at one point in time, man, I was like, man, I don't really believe that I was, Jesus was my last life. So I stopped doing all that stuff. And I was like, man, forget it. I don't believe it. And I started eating meat, and I just started, kind of gave up on the whole situation. And what really changed my life around, I remember one time I was downstairs, and I was actually kicking it with my sister. You know what I mean? We were sitting there chatting it up. And I remember she had left the room and had really brought up that situation of like, man, I don't really believe I'm this person. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I just can't. You know what I mean? It's impossible. I'm just one of those. It's one of those. I'd be one of those little crazy, mugs that be going around saying who they're that, they're this. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot. I mean, you gotta think about it. You know what I mean? A lot of people sit there and say that, talk about this is who they are. You know what I mean? So then I was like, nah, man. And I just kept saying, nah, nah, nah. And then one cool thing, I remember my sister came in the room and she was like, hey, whatever you were thinking about, because she's like, her energy is like knowing, you know what I mean? So sometimes she just knows things. So she was like, that's one cool thing about, her, with her magic and all the other stuff that goes with that. But also, I remember when she was telling me this, it was like, she was like, that one thing that you've been fighting? And she had no idea. She probably still doesn't know to this day, really. I don't know if I really even told her the story. And she was like, and I was like, she was like, all that stuff that you've been fighting and stuff, you should just pursue it and see what it's about. So then I was like, shoot, okay. You know what I mean? Seeming how it was like, it's really, when you think about it, God, the certain energies actually talk to you through certain things, through plants, through animals, through numbers, through signs, through the clouds, pretty much anything that you see, they're always trying to communicate. So it could be, even through a certain person. So I remember when he told me that, I started buckling down. I started going to a plant-based diet. I started really, really searching for the truth. And then I actually started meditating. And then I actually came out to find out that there was these certain energies, you know what I mean, that were actually the makeup of God, which were like chakras, which is, the inside and what's out of you. You know what I mean? So then, once I learned all the stuff with that, I actually sat down, and then I remember just starting to learn each energy, and it really all started off really because I was starting to study the chakras. You know what I mean? So I had learned the bottom, the the base chakra, basically all the way up to the top. When I was, learning a little bit about them, learning all their energies and stuff like that. And then I had came onto a correlation where it was like, these certain energies have certain names, almost like Zeus and Shango and all these other type of people. They're all the same, almost the same energy. They're just, described on what they were in ancient religions, you know what I mean? Because they didn't know. It was like the beginning of science before it was science, you know what I mean? Because they didn't know what we have today. So when I actually started sitting down, I started learning all these energies. I remember I went down to the base, and it was like this one for me was actually going to be the power. This is the power. This is the fear. You know what I mean? And it was actually like it was going on a journey and actually learning Shango, because that's what I call it. And a lot of people have other different names. You know what I mean? Because he has several names, because it's that energy. You know what I mean? And the certain traits of that described, like I was saying earlier. So that's what I learned for that one. And then I went up to to the second one, and that was your Maya, and I was like, that's pleasure and love. You know what I mean? And then I had went up and learned the middle one, which was Oshun, which was knowing yourself. Knowing thyself. You know what I mean? Then I had went up to your heart, which was like loss and strategy. You know what I mean? And also gain. And that one was Ogun, and it was like, these energies were sitting there. They're. It's not like they're talking to me, because it's not like actual, voices. Sometimes it is, because it's really deciphering the emotions. The emotions sometimes speak so loud. A lot of times when a lot of these people, when they're channeling things, what they're doing is they're channeling the energy. You know what I mean? And he's channeling these emotions because emotion is energy in motion. So when you actually start to channel that energy in motion, you can actually start to use it, come up with different language. That's why the Egyptians used to actually do it in talking pictures and stuff like that, because it was easier to, express that energy in motion, through a picture, because it's a visual, you know what I mean? But that's a whole other topic. But then, actually I started uh, went up and I learned about the throat chakra, you know what I mean? And I was like, that's Obatala, which actually, that's actually a lot of us, we actually resonate with a lot of these energies. And that's the energy that I resonate with truth and compassion, you know what I mean? With, everything that goes with that. So then that's actually was, to believe it or not, once I actually figured out a lot about myself, that was my first version, you know what I mean? But anyway, we go up to the top, which was Oramula, which was wisdom, you know what I mean, which is illusions and all that other type of stuff. And I was like, yeah, this is cool. And then I remember I was sitting there doing that, and I felt like, once I had learned them, everything was cool. So then I started just going in deeper, and then all of a sudden I came up, there was these other energies that started talking to me. So it really starts off, I'll start it off, this is not how it happened, but this is the certain energies, because it starts at your feet. And this one was Ochosi. And this one was actually the protection in the hunting. This is the one that you always want to start with, because without protection, what is there? You know what I mean? You're vulnerable to everything. And it's also the hunting. So it actually, actually goes out, attacks, does all the aggressive things. You know what I mean? Those are the chakras on your feet. And then actually I went to one of your left hand, and this was actually was going to be, the chakra was a lega, and this was the door opening and closing energy. So it was like, the energy to open all things, the energy to close, you know what I mean? So then I started learning all these things, like, dang, you can actually use these energies, as a part of yourself, you know what I mean? Because this is what God is, you know what I mean? It's not really something in the sky that's, dictating everything, because this is free will. You can do everything. It's more I wrote than more than it's written. So then I started learning about these energies, you know what I mean? And we're more of an equal, more than just having, everything is the same. Everything is balanced, you know what I mean? But then anyway, I started going over to the other hand, and this one was Obla'aya, which was healing, which actually a funny story with this one. I remember when I had met Obla'aya was around the time COVID had came out. I remember it was like, that energy was actually kind of, mad. And, that's when I kind of figured out that COVID was going to hit. Honestly, I knew a little bit before everybody else did, because when I had met that energy, because it was sickness and healing, that's what, the game. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of stuff that had to be worked, a lot of stuff that went on with that. You know what I mean? So then after I had learned that one, I was like, wow, so now that's 3 more that are added, you know what I mean? And I was like, okay. So then I had went up to above that, which was the actual the top chakra, which was Oya. And I was like, what is that? That's basically like the Grim Reaper, the gate between the life and death. You know what I mean? That's what a lot of people, they give that energy kind of like the Grim Reaper type of energy. But I call it Oya, and this is what, we talked to and I learned. You know what I mean? And that opened up a different chakra, which is like the ancestral chakra. Now, the ancestral chakra, or the energy of that, basically consists of everything in existence. You know what I mean? Everything that is or will. You know what I mean? Like all the other energies, like me, you, grass. You know what I mean? All the rest of these energies that have all the rest of their traits. There's about 16 trillion different energies in that one. You know what I mean? I'm actually gonna talk about that a little bit more. And a lot of it actually depends on your DNA structure. So a lot of times, depends on how you're born, you know what I mean, what you're born in, and how far back your roots are, depending on, how your spirit is, because there's always constantly new spirits being in. That's why they say there's old spirits, there's new spirits, so it's actually really complex. It's really more of a DNA thing, you can say, will be able to determine the chakras, you know what I mean, and that one with your ancestors. So then I had learned that, and I started talking to a lot of my ancestors and a lot of things. That's when I actually started channeling, talking to the dead and stuff like that through that chakra and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, so that's another energy. And then I had learned about, I was starting to do a video, and then I started to learn about Ochosi, or not Ochosi, Olodumare. I'm sorry about that. And Olodumare was like the wind, you know what I mean? Everything that goes with the wind and the energy of it with wind and non-wind, you know. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I learned about Oloran, which was like matter and energy of life, you know what I mean, like the what we are, skin, you know what I mean. And then I had learned also about the energy of water, which was Olokun. And you can use all those three were like the way they came to me when I had learned them. They're like the energy that gives fuel to all the rest of the energies. It's like the life energy because they're water, non-existent, existent, air, non-existent, existent, and then matter. It's like it's kind of hard to describe Oleron. Oleron would be like Mother Earth, but she's like, you know, it's more than just that. It's like the universe. You know what I mean? It's not just Earth. It's that energy. You know what I mean? The energy of that in a way. And it's kind of hard to describe in a way. That's why, you know, a lot of times I'm always meditating and talking to a good way to actually be able to explain that type of energy, you know. But that's the best way. It was actually told me would be like that's Mother Earth basically, you know, and Mother Son or Father Son, you know what I mean, all in one. You heard, you know what I mean. So then actually I had after I learned all those, and then I remember I was like getting ready to actually, you know, starting to learn them all, and I was like, yes, I'm starting to learn all this cool stuff and all the way, and I was like, man, but I just feel like something's missing, and I was like, well, I don't know, you know, for some reason something's missing. So then I went in, and I remember thinking back about, as a Christian, we used to have something, an energy called the Holy Spirit. And I used to wonder, you know, what is that? Why do people, you know, mess around with all that? What the hell is, you know, all this, you know, the Holy Spirit and all this? And I just remember doing a meditation, and that's when it actually came to me, and it was called a Gayu, and it was the actually the energy that's on your mouth, and it's something that puts everything together, that allows everything to flow. You know what I mean? It's like the energy that connects all the rest of the energy so that everything can, you know, go right. You know what I mean? It's almost like the key to strength there in a way. But anyway, that's another topic. But you know, after I had learned all these energies, and I had learned how they all come together and that they're one, and that these are like, you know, all the energies, I was like, okay, so this is what God is. You know what I mean? Once I started really realizing it's everything, you know what I mean? And I got down, these are the energy flows. So you can actually start, once you're able to use all these energies and manipulate them, that's why I want to do a series on them. You can actually start manifesting and doing whatever you want with these certain energies, and you don't have to worry about all the rest of the other techniques that everybody talks about with doing all this and all that, because it is. I'll just put it that way. You know, this is the energy you use if you want to walk on water. You know what I mean? If you want to do things like that, you have to understand and manipulate all the energies of the universe and have an understanding to be able to do that. You know what I mean? Because there's certain energies that flow in that allow certain things to do that, and you have to be ready and on time and completely in the moment and not thinking about past, present, and there's a lot of other stuff that goes with it to be able to utilize that energy and motion. You know what I mean? To be able to use it to, I guess you can say, form and create anything you want in a way, because it's just, you know, all energy flows and all that. So basically, I just want to come here, tell you what God is. God is energy. It flows. You know what I mean? It's magic. It's science. You know what I mean? It's everything. And you are, you know, you are God. So that's, you can go ahead. That's create your journey. That's create everything that you want to do. You know what I mean? Let's go ahead. Now knowing this, that all the energies and all this stuff, you know, about what God, you know, truly is, and the essence of everything. You can start loving everything, giving energy, you know, and everything. Start understanding the energy of the universe so that you can start manifesting literally what you want, because you don't really manifest what you want. You know what I mean? That's almost like a trick question when people say that. You can only manifest what you are. You know what I mean? And the reason why people say that through the law of attraction, because it's all about vibrations and energies. It's science, really, when you get down to it. So, I mean, when you think about it, all in all, it's magic and science. So I just want to come here, tell you about who God is. This is another exciting one of Library of Alexandria. If you like what I said here, you want to learn a little bit more, go ahead, like and subscribe. And I love you guys, sending out tons and tons of love to everyone in the entire universe, you know. And, you know, one thing I always like to say is that, or one cool thing I learned is that, you know, you are not greater than anything, but also nothing is greater than you. So I love you guys. Namaste.